The Inventory of Lost Voices by Tony Angelo. The job was supposed to be simple. Catalog the old recordings, label them, and send them to archive. But nothing about the voices was simple. Elias had been retired for 6 months when the government offered him the contract. Temporary auditory archivist, the letter said. Your experience in sound engineering qualifies you for limited-term reclassification. He didn't know what that meant, but he liked the word sound. It felt like something he could still control. The building was called the Repository for Oral Histories, though everyone just called it the Vault. It sat on the edge of the city, half buried in concrete, humming faintly like a machine that never slept. Inside, the air smelled of dust and electricity. Rows of shelves stretched into darkness, each lined with reels, tapes, and digital drives, decades of voices waiting to be remembered. Elias's task was to listen, transcribe, and tag. Each file had a name, a date, and a note. Interview incomplete. He was told not to edit, not to interpret, only to record what he heard. The first voice was a woman. "Do you remember the sound of rain on tin?" she asked. Then silence. Elias waited for more, but the tape ended. He wrote the line down, labeled it, and moved on. The second voice was a man. "I didn't mean to leave," it said. Then static. He wrote that down too. By the end of the first week, he had cataloged 312 fragments, half-sentences, sighs, laughter, and the occasional sob. He began to notice patterns. The same names repeated, the same phrases echoed across decades. "Do you remember? I didn't mean to." They said it was temporary. He asked his supervisor, a woman named Dr. Klein, about the repetition. "They're from different sources," she said. "Different eras, coincidence. But they sound connected." "They're not," she said. "Just voices." That night, Elias dreamed of the vault. He was walking between the shelves, but the shelves were breathing. Every time he passed one, it exhaled a whisper. When he woke, his ears were ringing. He told himself it was tinnitus. He'd had it for years, but the ringing had rhythm now, like someone tapping Morse code inside his skull. By the second month, the voices began to change. He was listening to a reel labeled 1974. Subject unknown when he heard his own name. "Elias," the voice said. "You're late." He froze. The voice was male, calm, familiar. He rewound the tape. "Elias, you're late." Same tone, same cadence. He checked the metadata. The recording was older than he was. He played it again. "Elias, you're late." Then a faint laugh, then silence. He wrote the line down, but his hands shook. He tried to tell Dr. Klein. "Voices can resemble each other," she said. "Coincidence." It said my name. Coincidence. It laughed. Coincidence. He stared at her. "You don't believe that," she smiled. "Belief isn't part of the job." Elias began to listen differently, not for words, but for intention. He noticed breaths between syllables, pauses that felt deliberate, tones that carried emotion even when the words didn't. He realized the voices weren't random. They were responding, not to each other but to him. When he entered the vault, the hum changed pitch. When he sat down, the static softened. When he pressed play, the silence before the voice felt expectant. He started talking back. "Who are you?" he whispered. Sometimes the tapes answered. One night he stayed late. The building was empty except for the hum of the machines. He played a file labeled 1989, subject Marla. The voice was faint, trembling. "They said we'd be downsized," it whispered. "But it wasn't the house, it was us." Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" the voice continued. "They took our echoes, said we were too loud." He leaned closer. "Who took them?" "The auditors," she said, "the ones who measure silence." Then the tape ended. He rewound it. The words were gone. He began to keep a private log, not the official inventory, but a secret one. He called it the Lost Voices Index. Every time a tape changed, he wrote it down. Every time a voice spoke directly to him, he marked it with a star. By the end of the third month, half the tapes were starred. He noticed something else. The starred tapes were disappearing. One day they were on the shelf, the next, gone. When he asked Dr. Klein, she said, "Reclassified." "What does that mean?" "Transferred." "To where?" She smiled. "You don't need to know." Elias began to record his own voice. He wanted to see if the vault would respond. He sat at his desk, pressed record, and said, "My name is Elias. I'm listening." Then he waited. The playback was silent for 10 seconds. Then a whisper, "We hear you." He stopped the tape. He played it again. Same whisper, same tone. He checked the input levels. The microphone had been off. He started hearing the voices outside the vault, in the elevator, in the hallway, in his apartment. Sometimes they spoke through the radio, sometimes through the hum of the refrigerator, sometimes they used his own voice. He tried to ignore them, but they grew louder. They began to tell him things, names, dates, places he'd never been. "Elias," they said, "you're part of the inventory now." He went to Dr. Klein one last time. "I need to stop," he said. "The voices are following me." She nodded. "That's normal." "Normal? It means the integration is working." "What integration?" She handed him a folder. Inside was a contract, the same one he'd signed months ago, but with new clauses highlighted. Clause 9, auditory synchronization. Clause 10, permanent archival inclusion. He looked up. "You're recording me," she smiled. "We record everyone." He quit the next day, but when he tried to leave the building, the doors wouldn't open. The security system said his clearance was revoked. He called for help, but the phone only played static. He went back to the vault. The shelves were empty. Every tape was gone. In their place were speakers, hundreds of them, humming softly. He heard his own voice. "My name is Elias," it said. "I'm listening." Then another voice joined. "Do you remember the sound of rain on tin?" Then another. "I didn't mean to leave." Then another. "They said it was temporary." The voices overlapped, merged, became a chorus. Elias covered his ears, but the sound was inside him now. When the rescue team found him 3 days later, he was sitting at his desk, headphones on, smiling faintly. The logbook was open in front of him. Every page was filled with one sentence, written over and over, "We hear you." Months later, Dr. Klein submitted her report. Subject: Elias Ward, status integrated. Notes: successful synchronization, auditory containment achieved. Recommend expansion of program. Attached was a new contract. Position: auditory archivist level 2. Start date immediate. At the bottom, a handwritten note: "Welcome back, Elias," and somewhere, deep in the vault, a new voice began to speak. "My name is Elias." It said, "I'm listening," then silence, then another whisper, "We hear you."